be a leader, you have to own who you are. I wrote this letter to my younger self. Dear Ben, your first love was basketball, playing in the street. All you wanted to do was play with Bill and the other older neighborhood kids. Bill was your first idol. Since you were 7 years younger, every sport your brother loved, you did too. Once you started playing organized ball, you didn't have much awareness of your lack of skill. You were one of the few lefty shooters, and you often felt out of place. It was frustrating sometimes, but you stuck with it. You even showed some real fire to improve between your 6th and 7th grades, that you spent that entire summer teaching yourself to shoot right-handed because you were tired of coaches not being able to work with you on your mechanics. By high school, you were splitting your time between football and basketball, with your focus quickly gravitating towards football. Basketball became your second sport. See, football in Western Pennsylvania was everything to a high school kid like you. Friday Night Lights finally met the chance for you to make a name for yourself. You had speed, quickness, and a willingness to endure contact. You even had pretty good hands and ran precise routes, practicing all the time with your friends in the off-season. The only thing you severely lacked was self-confidence. It was debilitating. With no one around but you and a few friends after practice, you caught everything. But the first sight of a coach or someone from the outside watching, and you couldn't catch a beach ball. Lacking that self-confidence, you developed other afflictions, overvaluing others' opinions, and a crippling fear of failure. These plagued you nearly your entire athletic career. Before your senior season, after missing out on achieving your biggest goal of being named a team captain, one particular coach saved you from yourself. Coach Porter somehow got you to focus on small things and helped to quiet the noise in your head. He moved you solely as defensive back to shelter you from the fears of dropping passes, and worse yet, at least in your own mind, being embarrassed in front of everyone else. You thrived on defense, less the extra pressure, and managed to garner all-conference honors and get recruited by a few small schools, even though you decided to never play again after high school. As for basketball, you decided to walk away before your final season, even though your coach, who you had had an up-and-down relationship with in the past, asked you to reconsider. He told you he believed you were the leader of the team. You spun some bullshit narrative in your own head that you were acting like a leader by stepping away because your heart wasn't in it anymore. What a crock that was, looking back. Yet again, you didn't want to be embarrassed. You wouldn't get the attention, so it was easier to quit. After graduation, the thought of not having sports in your life hit a little too hard. Through some connections, you talked to the college coach about walking on to play lacrosse at St. Vincent, a sport that you had only ever watched on TV. The fast pace was intriguing. The physical nature and quick movements were a good fit, so you gave it a try. Your desire to fit in made you work hard. Your competitive nature drove you to be able to hang with a team full of guys on scholarship. Everything was working out all right. But then, that old desire to be noticed, to belong, came creeping back in. You wanted to be a popular athlete more than a good player. The girls, partying, and self-doubt swallowed you up. Heading into your junior season, you had no identity. As luck would have it, your business classes would require you to miss practice 2 to 3 days per week. The convenient excuse to walk away, even though you weren't even in it mentally anymore. At least it sort of allowed you to save face. And with that, your sports career ended completely unceremoniously. Yet your biggest sports headline was soon to come. Front page of the sports section of the USA Today. It would be one of the biggest embarrassments of your entire life. A bloody towel over your broken nose, punched out by an opposing player. Yeah, as a fan of the college basketball game. There was the attention you'd always wanted. Too much to drink before a game. They said you called on the fight. That may not have been completely true, but you were certainly culpable. Worse yet, you spent years quietly blaming your school for not backing you up. You thought you were the scapegoat, or at least that's what you told yourself. You couldn't take ownership for yourself. This was precisely why your coaches would never let you be a captain in football all those years before, even though you had gotten the votes from your teammates. At age 30, you refocused on your fitness and being a strong athlete. You found new ways to compete as a new dad. You thought maybe the mud races a lot of people were doing would give you some redemption and credibility. Then when you tore your pec muscle completely off the bone during a race, You secretly felt like your recovery would give you a good comeback story, another chance to prove something to anyone who would take notice. There was that attention thing, rearing its ugly head yet again. A few years later, you tried a bike race to feed your competitive spirit, or ego, or maybe both. The few months of training were filled with solitude. You started to get a glimpse of what it actually meant to put in the work without anyone watching. You even raised a few $1,000s for Children's Hospital of your own accord, which did feel rewarding, actually doing something for the sake of others. Aside from pickup lacrosse in the summers now and personal workout routine, that's pretty much where your athletic story has ended. Along the way, when Marco started to get interested in lacrosse, someone fed your ego by asking you to coach because you had experience with the game. At last, a new way to get people to see you differently. Of course, that would have required people to actually know your story and care in the first place. A few years into coaching, Marco was about 9 at the time. Something happened. Watching his team get destroyed by a far better group of kids, you coached helplessly from the sideline. It was so bad that you turned your attention completely away from the field to the other coach. He was actually making fun of your kids. When you saw him lip the words, "They are terrible," the world turned upside down for you right then and there. At halftime, you saw their faces filled with embarrassment. You wanted so badly to take it away from them. They felt what you had always feared. Tears streaming down your own face, you told them to never quit on themselves, never to stop fighting, not to worry about what others thought of them. It was almost an out-of-body experience of sorts. You were talking to yourself too. That was the day you became a coach. You found your purpose. You realized that you could never rewrite your own athletic career. You accepted that your time has passed. It's your players' time now. You can help athletes craft their own story. You can break their fear of failure, make them understand that attention is useless without credibility, and how to actually build their own self-confidence. Maybe someday their letters to their younger selves will be filled with real successes, not the stories they had told themselves along the way to hide what they knew all along.